Field Notes, Day 1. My name is Dash Knightley. I've been sent on an expedition on behalf of the Cultured Swine podcast to learn more about the indigenous peoples of our area. My first foray was to a mega box store. I cannot say their name, for they are a litigious and powerful lot. Suffice to say, wall to wall, they provided the insight I will require for my studies. As I explore, I'm reminded of Kipling. All the people like us are we, and everyone else is they. And now, my first dispatch from madness. My first outing was a certified disaster. Alas, I fear I seriously underestimated my quarry, as they proved to be cunning, elusive, and even somewhat hostile. It is, however, important to chronicle one's failures, for they can prove just as enlightening as one's successes, perhaps more so. First, I believe my first outing was doomed from the word go, mainly due to the fact that it was an impromptu event, with little planning and forethought. I believed my prey could sense that I was not one of them. For starters, I was wearing a shirt with a collar. This evidently sent warning bells to the masses. In the future, I shall study my prey more carefully, so I may blend in amongst them. I observed many manners of dress and attitude that I might emulate. Camo pants and tank tops seemed to be a popular choice. Also, flip-flops seemed to be the preferred footwear amongst those who chose to wear shoes. Very interesting indeed. My next mistake, I believe, was my lack of patience when presented with an acceptable candidate for photography. In my excitement, I fear I spooked my prey by making sudden movements with my camera and giggling like a schoolchild at my luck. The result ranged from flight of the specimen to outright displays of territorial protection. One specimen was wearing tight white jeans, an alligator belt with matching alligator belt buckle, and boots, a tight shiny silver sleeveless shirt, and a cowboy hat. I attempted several times to capture him on film, but he became wise to my attempts and rapidly fled the area. I lost him somewhere around housewares. Next, I spotted a female examining some sort of kitchen gadget. She was a pristine specimen of the box store veldt, resplendent in lycra shorts and gitter-done tank top, with no shoes. If I could capture her on film, I would make history for sure. She was distracted by her young in the shopping cart, screaming for McDonald's, so I had to act fast. As I raised my camera for the shot, her mate appeared. He was a good specimen, a bull in camo pants and tank top, complete with a class 4 mullet. Those interested should see my field guide for mullet classifications. He wrongly assumed I was taking pictures for prurient reasons, and began to show signs of charging. I didn't think it was wise to try and reason with him, and explain my interest was purely scientific, so I was forced to retreat to the book section, where I was sure he would not find me. Needless to say, I have a lot of work to do. I have already begun preparations for my next outing. I have outfitted myself with camo pants and a wife-beater-style tank top, to borrow from the parlance of our times. I failed to secure flip-flops, but I do have some old work boots and a USA-style trucker hat, which I believe will help me blend in. I have also studied the popular areas within the box store, and am confident I shall see results in the guns and ammo sections, as well as processed foods and snack aisle. Wish me luck, for there will be more to follow. Godspeed. I'm Dash Knightley, and this has been a Dispatch from Madness.
All right, we're going, man. How's it going?
Doing well.
Yeah? Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. It was such a long walk.
I know, right around.
I almost switched it to the brewery.
Did you?
I didn't know if I could make it.
We're literally 14 steps, probably, something like that from where you are.
I counted up to 17.
Okay, well.
give or take.
You're a little taller than me. I don't know how that works. But
Typically, it's more steps for you.
right on. Well, hey, happy birthday. I noticed that on
Thank
Facebook
you.
today. I'm glad you made time on your birthday to come and do the Cultured Swine podcast. Did you see
I
my
did.
board behind you there? I put up a little.
Oh, well, isn't that nice? No, it's weird. People talk to me all day, and I turned 42 today.
Oh, we're the same age.
And they're like, oh, big plans for your birthday? And it's, when you're kind of an adult, you don't really take a birthday week or birthday month anymore. It's like, well, I'm going to get up and go to work.
Yeah.
Going to get up and go to work. Going to do my job, deliver beer, go home, have dinner, go to bed. It's just like any other day.
Yeah.
It's just I'm a year older now.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's not even any actuary help on your car insurance or anything with this age. It's
No,
not,
they
I
don't
get
really do anything for you. I had a friend take me out to lunch and doing a podcast and drinking a beer, and that's
Yeah.
about as special as it gets.
So you got the Sierra Nevada Narwhal. How you liking
Yes.
that? Is that pretty good?
Good, yeah. I'm a glutton for dark beers, so winter
Yeah.
is one of my favorite times of the year when it comes to beer releases.
You mentioned that the other day. It's my wife has a friend that always she comes over, and every time she brings a 6-pack of something super dark,
Mm-hmm.
and I dig it. I dig dark beer. I'm kind of a have beer will drink kind of guy though. But I prefer something a little bit. I think we talked about a little bit sweeter is what I kind of like, but not. This is all good. It's all good. You know, it's not like I turn my nose up.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, well, what's your favorite beer? And normally my answer is my next one. Because I'm kind of the same way. I drink to suit my mood. I don't have a favorite style. I would err on darker styles over lighter styles personally. But in the summertime, an ice cold Kolsch or a Pilsner out of a cooler is delicious when you're mowing the lawn. So, and ironically today we're brewing the Baltic Porter for the wintertime, which, that's obviously the beer that we turned into the toasted coconut Baltic Porter in January. That tends to be our best seller through the winter.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my own little birthday present to myself. I was walking in the brewery this morning and smelling that Baltic Porter going with like the rich roasted malts.
Yeah.
And it smells a lot different in there than light beers or IPAs.
I remember the first time when I was a kid. I guess I was a kid. I was 18, 19. Okay. When I left for college, the first time I walked into a brewery, and I never even brewed toured the one down here.
Oh, really?
La Crosse. But I moved to Seattle when I left high school to go to art school out in Seattle, and we would go take brewery tours all the time. And back then they were super cool. Like those guys were running the microbrews. They didn't care about age. I mean, as long as there were no cops standing around, they let you in and let you drink. And the smell of the brewery, I remember the very first one I went to was the Red Hook Brewery.
Okay.
And that was a little tough one to get over, that smell.
Oh, yeah.
But the more I've been around it and the more microbrews and the older I get, I think it's something I actually enjoy. Like you get into that kind of, oh, that's funky. That's some good shit right there.
Yeah, it's definitely got a very unique kind of smell to it or aroma to it. And growing up in La Crosse, you get down by the brewery back in the day, and I mean, when you're a child, it kind of the mix between the brewery here and then the sewage treatment facility or whatever it is across the way.
Yeah.
Like you just always associated it with the kind of that porta potty smell almost.
Right. It's yeast poop is basically what alcohol is, though, right?
It's it's farting off carbon dioxide, and it is what it is. And I know now it's they do a lot of the sugary kind of malt drinks down there at the big brewery in La Crosse here, which I guess is owned by Pabst Blue Ribbon now.
I think they just said they're going to start nationwide. It's going to start happening here, which is big news for.
Nah, I know that's huge, and
hipsters everywhere shall rejoice.
Yeah, they're going to do it in Memphis, and I think the other one's in North Carolina, maybe.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I think they're doing it everywhere, but you just kind of associate it with that smell. But when you go into a small craft brewery, you really smell the beer, because we make one beer at a time, so it's not like we got 5 or 6 different things going. It's just that one beer that we're making, so yeah, today was the rich roasty malts and almost chocolate, and it's all real deep char flavors.
See Brent back there working. I mean, that man he's stroking back there. It looks like he is putting in 40 hours in a 10-hour day or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's I always say it's got to be a labor of love, because 90% of what those guys do is they're upside down inside the fermenters, scrubbing and cleaning, and 10% of their job is actually making beer.
Yeah.
and really getting into the science of it, and what they're passionate about. The rest of it's, I mean, yeah, it's cleaning. You're breaking your back and hauling grain and cleaning tanks. And
I tried to get into homebrewing myself. I used to live in Atlanta, and a friend of mine got into brewing his own beer. I'm like, well, how hard could that be? I'm not when it comes to that type of detail-oriented type person, that's not me. Where you have to, I mean, shit has to be clean. I mean, when you're doing that stuff and sanitized, and you have to stay up on all that. You miss one step, next thing you know, you're growing some kind of botulism that you could kill everybody with. You got to be real careful with it.
Absolutely.
And just huffing and puffing in there, sweating out their body weight in water.
Yeah, it's and there's ways to make it easier as you grow and you expand, and you celebrate some of your successes by reinvesting into your company.
Yeah.
But right now everything we do is manual. So it's everything we're carrying everything in by hand. We're mixing everything by hand. Nothing is automated at this point. So it's you're touching it at every point of the process to make sure it's coming through exactly the way you want it to.
Yeah, I think you kind of feel it when you go in there too. In fact, I don't think we said, in case somebody's listening and doesn't know, you're from Turtle Stack Brewery downtown. Yeah. And sorry, I'm a little congested.
No
I took
worries.
some a lot of decongestant just before this. I'm hopped up on cold medicine, drinking dark beer, and so if I just drop out, that's just hit pause, hit the space bar, and
I'll carry it till the buzzer goes off.
there we go. I'll be all right. My liver is well seasoned for assault on many fronts.
That's kind of my approach to flu and cold season is Irish whiskey and dark beer.
Right on, man. That's what I did the other night. I didn't go for the super expensive Irish whiskey because, I think about the guys in Ireland. They're drinking Paddy down at the bar. That's my jam right there.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, people are starting to get hip to Paddy that I think it's every bit as good, if not better, than Jameson.
Yeah.
And the price is going up on it. It used to be you get a bottle of that stuff for $12. Now it's almost as expensive as Jameson now, and it's I don't see it going down. They made a new label, and they're getting all highfalutin.
Yeah, that's everything though. I mean, they don't sleep on that anymore. Pabst Blue Ribbon is a perfect example. In contracts with distributors, so you would have an official beer of Vale, Telluride, Crested Butte. Well, the unofficial beer of all of those mountains was Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's what all the lifties and dishwashers and bussers and the people that really make those towns work would come in and get $1.75 Pabst Blue Ribbon. And it didn't take long for Pabst to catch on to that. And all of a sudden their 30 rack prices went up, I think, $3 per 30 rack, and they left the window open for a lot of other less expensive beers to kind of come in. And there was a big revolt out there because nobody carried PBR anymore.
Right.
And you thought these lifties and service industry employees, guys, were going to lose their mind until you showed them, well, this is still $1.50.
Yeah.
And now it's Rolling Rock.
Yeah. Or what did I get into over the summertime? I like a really good beer, but sometimes I just want to tie one on and not have to worry about it. I was got it at Hams.
Okay.
You go get like a 30 rack of Hams for literally like $8, and now it's not a quality, like I'd say, a quality drunk.
No.
But it gets you where
you feel a little dirty the next day. A little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like the walk of shame when you're going out to the recycling bin.
Put them in the neighbor's recycling bin. You don't want the recycling guy to judge you.
I'll tell you what though, I went to a few lager games this summer, and one of my new guilty pleasure, and this is a guilty pleasure, I'm totally admit that, is the Natter Days.
Oh, see, I haven't.
Haven't you had one of them?
I don't like sweet.
Oh, that's right.
So and so for me, even as a dark beer lover, a lot of milk chocolate stouts get too sweet for me.
Oh, really?
I appreciate the bitter baker's chocolate and the coffee notes that come along with a lot of the darker styles of beer. So yeah, when you start getting into like pastry stouts and anything like that, and you're getting into putting fruit in beer, which is a very popular thing now, that just isn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see why it works. You look at the strawberry milkshake IPAs and all the new like hard seltzers and kettle sours and those kind of things. They're bringing this whole new demographic to the craft beer world that the craft beer world didn't see before. Those people were intimidated to come into a craft brewery because they don't like beer. And these things are kind of opening the door for some of these people to come in. And
I don't think anybody's gonna confuse Natter Days with a craft beer, though.
I can't speak to it. I don't know. I guess
it's Natty Light.
Yep.
And it basically tastes like a strawberry pop.
Okay, yeah. So they throw in some like fruit juice. Or
It's like a mega shandy.
Gotcha.
You know, it literally doesn't even taste like beer or
Right.
alcohol. And we got the bucket, and there was a Natter Day in there, and I was looking around, and there was a bunch of other people drinking them. Okay, I'll give it a shot. Oh my God! I mean, it was hotter than balls outside. Yeah. Cracked that thing open, and I mean, it was damn refreshing. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's there's a beer for every time and every place. And I'm a fan of Miller High Life bottles off the bottom of the cooler after mowing the lawn. I could take a 6-pack down in like 7 minutes.
The champagne of beers.
Yeah, it's got to be ice cold though, off the bottom of that cooler, covered with ice. And, so time and a place for everything.
That's awesome. I like when people aren't beer snobs about you gotta.
There's enough of those in this world. You drink what you like, drink what makes you happy, drink what tastes good. Right now, drink what's in front of you.
Yeah, life's too short.
Exactly, and. That's a big thing though with the craft beer thing is people come in and they think everybody in craft breweries are beer snobs,
right?
And they don't realize that it's I'm drinking a Pilsner as much as I'm drinking an IPA, and a lot of the old world lagers and Pilsners and ale styles we make. That's what your new macro domestic beers are all based off of. Is these old world European lagers and ales that craft breweries don't necessarily take the time to make anymore. Everything's so trendy nowadays. But there's a handful of old world European breweries out there that are really focusing on, that old world craft experience and showing people that these can be craft too. And it's harder to make a Kolsch than it is to make a Baltic Porter. Yeah. Because there's a lot of places to hide in a big, heavy, strong, dark beer. If there's any flaws in a Kolsch, you're going to taste that right away.
Same with like a Pilsner or like those old timey like those Czech Pilsners.
Oh yeah,
those actually take a lot longer to make too, don't they? Because there's like a clarifying process or something that goes on with that.
Yeah, and I mean any lager, like lagers, you typically you want the fermentation time on those lagers to be if not up to 8 on a lager, where a lot of those ales and IPAs you can push those out in 3 weeks.
Sure.
And there's a problem we're seeing now in the industry with everybody trying to keep up with places are pulling their beer early.
Yeah.
And you get that actual like hop burn flavor, where like at first it kind of presents itself as like a hoppy beer, but then there's like a burn that lingers afterwards, and it doesn't finish clean, and it's a cloying. It's just not enjoyable, and all they're doing is they're pulling their beers a week early because they want to get something on a line instead of letting those beers finish.
Sure.
To the point where they drop clear and bless you.
Yeah.
But you there's different approaches to it, and it's one approach is get stuff out as quick as possible and hit people over the head with new stuff all the time. The other approach is make beer for people who like beer. Make your constants good, your base should be strong, and then you can play around with different styles and add stuff in here and there.
I'm kind of glad. It seems to be everybody's a little bit over the whole hop thing. I mean, like hops were, I remember, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, everything was super ultra dank hop that you have to hold your nose, and it's almost like a challenge to drink it. I mean, I went into one place, might have been in Colorado, when they were serving it. It was the thing was so hoppy you can't drink it. Like, well, what the hell? Why would I want? And they served it with a hop garnish. They would put the garnish on top, and it was just it was like a challenge. I just want to sit back and drink. I don't want to do a food challenge every time I crack something open.
It's like making wings. I mean, if you make wings too hot for anybody to eat them,
right?
Nobody's gonna eat them.
Yeah.
So, the IBU wars for the most part are over. It's the bittering unit scale that you measure how bitter a beer is. It started probably 12 to 15 years ago.
Sure.
People just started dry hopping the heck out of arguably bad beer because you can just dry hop the heck out of it, turn it into this hop bomb that's gonna burn all the way down. And then, call it, slap an IPA tag on it and sell it. And I tell people all the time, when I moved out to Colorado, probably 21 years ago, I probably drank a lot of really bad beer.
Yeah.
But it was like, man, this is amazing because it was so different to me then that I figured it had to be amazing because it was different. Now looking back, I'm like, I probably drank some really terrible beer and told people how good it was.
Well,
I didn't know.
My introduction to really hoppy beer, I guess Red Hook really wasn't that hoppy. It wasn't kind of in that IPA style. In fact, I can't remember what kind they called that. It's
Red Hook is synonymous with the ESB.
ESB, extra special bitter. That's what it was. ESB. That's what the word I was looking for. But when I was in the Navy, we got into like the Sierra Nevada Pale Ales.
Yep.
And then later the Torpedo IPA that they made, and I think that's pretty good.
And still to this day, we talk IPAs, and I'm big on balance in IPAs. I really am. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is a good beer,
right?
It's when I talk to people about like a good standard for a style, I think Sierra Nevada is a great example of a standard for that style. Moonman from New Glarus is another great. In my opinion, when I go out to a bar that doesn't have tap lines and they're a little bit limited on their craft selection and what you can have, if they have a Moonman, that's almost my go-to now when I'm out and about.
That's awesome.
It's a good beer.
Yeah. When I worked down south, my go-to was the Yingling, but that's just because they had that on tap at every bar down there.
But it's another great example of like a regular style. It's like a copper ale. My buddy is from Knoxville, and we go down and visit his dad, and that's all his old man's got in his beer fridge is Yingling from top to bottom. So I've had a few of those kind of nasty, uncomfortable next day drunks on Yingling myself too. So
well, I just got back from a business trip last week to Ohio, and every time I go or somebody goes, we always mule back a whole bunch of it.
What's as far west as Yingling comes, right?
I believe so.
Somewhere in Ohio.
I believe so. I got it in Dayton, which is right on the border there. But this shipment was all for my wife's friend that brought all this stout that we're drinking here. But she also they have the Black and Tan Yingling, which is actually pretty good.
Haven't tried that yet.
Yeah,
I've always been a glutton for the traditional.
Oh yeah, well you gotta.
It's oldest brewery in the country.
Exactly.
They're doing something right.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on you go into one of these places that has 400 tap beers on and I'm always concerned when I see that. It's like, how clean are those lines? Are you flushing them all the time? Is there some? I mean, they can't all be good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't obviously speak with 100% certainty, but I mean, chances are they're probably not cleaning those lines a ton. There are companies now that go around and distributors will send guys in to do it.
Oh, really?
And we clean ours because we're so small. We're able to set it up to a pump.
Sure.
And just like push every line all the way through. So we clean ours like every 2 weeks, I think. Top to bottom, full flush. But some of those places and some of the accounts I've worked at around the country and some of the places I've been into, not everybody focuses on cleaning those lines. And when you really get into beer, you can taste it.
Yeah.
If it's you can taste a good beer on a bad line, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and understand how it affects that beer.
Right.
And with all the new, you got places now that will do a double IPA or an IPA keg if it's delivered, say 5 weeks after it was kegged.
Oh.
People are very diligent on when was it kegged, how long has it been in keg. Young IPAs are kind of where it's at, and that's when people want them. So, you can take a good, clean, young IPA where you're getting all the hop notes and you're getting the citrus out of that and the bittering contrast, and it's
interesting. They you got to stay on top of it, I guess. We used to go to this place in right outside of Birmingham it had like 50 beers on tap.
Right.
And this was right when the whole sour beer thing was I say have beer, we'll drink. I'll drink them, but I won't like it. I don't like sour beers at all.
But you'll finish it.
Oh, well, I'm not wasteful.
Sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and
get. But I was always kind of suspect of those. You see the one on the end that looks a little dusty, and God, how long's that been sitting there? Maybe ask her if she could run it for a couple minutes before you.
Yeah, when it's kicking out chunks to start.
Yeah.
No, it's tough. I mean, you go into a lot of those, they're like the super beer bars now that have 100 tap lines or whatever. You begin to know what to order at a place like that. And I just tell people, get something you like. Because chances are, if you go in and you try all sorts of these different beers, like it is what it is. Like, just get something you like. Sit down and enjoy it.
Well, and I'm glad there's getting to be some more more variety around here. The last few years has been really good for beer and alcohol in general in La Crosse.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, you guys. How long you been open down there?
4.5 years
4.5
now.
years.
It'll be 5 years in July of next year. So.
Yeah, that's nice. And right behind you guys was 608.
Yep.
And I've had a couple of their beers, and they're pretty decent. From what I've had, I can't remember what kind it was. I went to some music event over at the Wafer.
Okay.
And they were there. Tap is right behind them, so they were there. And gosh, I wish I could remember what kind it was I had. It was darker though. It was really good.
So 608, what's really unique and what's really cool about 608 is, Pearl Street Brewery's been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
They're kind of the grandfather of La Crosse, craft beer. And literally nobody else even attempted to open a craft brewery in the 15 years from when they opened to when we opened our doors.
Right.
And then to see, Skeleton Crew and then in 608 come through, and where we focus on old world European styles, at 608 it's way more of the progressive, the trendy. You get your blueberry milkshake IPAs, and they're doing pastry stouts and kettle sours, and they're really kind of pushing the boundaries along with breweries, like Brewing Project and Ale Asylum, that are just constantly throwing different things and new things into beer. Doing the East Coast hazy styles and the lactose styles, and and to get back to my point from earlier, it's widening the demographic for what craft beer is.
Sure.
And who is feeling comfortable walking into a craft brewery. And we look at it as if people are coming to La Crosse specifically to check out Turtle Stack Brewery, there's a good chance now they're going to go to 608, they're going to go to Pearl Street, they're going to check out Skeleton Crew. Same thing if they're coming in to check out 608 for their new styles, they're going to hit up those other breweries. So we're kind of evolving into this craft beer tourist destination for Midwest, where we're nowhere like what they got going down in Decorah with Toppling Goliath and Pulpit Rock, but people will travel for beer now, and it's part of what businessmen do when they're traveling for business. You check into your hotel, you open up your phone, you look up craft brewery near me, because every little town has their own craft brewery now. And the unique thing about La Crosse is all 4 breweries here are really focusing on kind of different styles.
Right.
So you can come and hit up all 4 breweries, and you can get something at Turtle Stack you're not going to find at any of the other 3 breweries. The same with 608, the same with Pearl Street, and the same with Todd up at Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing something a little bit different. So it's, if you got an itch, somebody will scratch it.
Yeah, right.
It's just, getting to the right place and the place that speaks to you.
Have you cruised out to Driftless in Soldiers Grove yet?
I have not been out to Driftless. Believe it or not, it's really challenging. I haven't even been to Winona yet.
Oh, really?
In 3.5 years or whatever. Like, it's really challenging to get out of town.
No kidding.
We're just a 2-man show over there. So
I suppose, yeah.
It's when I'm lucky enough to get a day off, a lot of times it's hard to leave the house, man.
Well, I was involved with those guys over in Winona at the Island City back when I was selling radio from the beginning. But we never got anywhere with them. But it was fun just hanging out and trying the beer and stuff.
Yeah. Well, they came through Turtle Stack twice.
Yeah.
Had their brew guys go in the back with Brent. Had their front of the house guys kind of hang out with me and talk sales and tap room. And they seem to really do their due diligence as far as getting open and kind of going through the motions to learn the business. I know going through those motions and actually executing is a totally different story. But yeah, it was fun having those guys in.
It's a pretty good vibe they have over there too.
Cool building.
Their building is awesome. Yeah, it's really, really cool. But between them and then going out to Soldiers Grove with the Driftless, they just did a whole big remodel out there.
Okay.
And I think they upped their capacity, and they have the big, nice tap room. The only problem is it's out in the middle of nowhere. But apparently they like it that way. It's and they're doing well, it seems.
Right. Now, Driftless and Hillsborough are different.
They are, yeah.
They're different.
Yeah, they're different. Hillsborough is.
Didn't Hillsborough just do a
big
renovation thing too?
Yeah, he's kicking ass out there. They make some decent beer. I like their beer a lot. I think their trademark is that Joe beer.
Which I've tried that one. I run into them at events a lot.
Oh, okay.
So,
Snapper and the guys.
Yeah, so like they'll come in. We'll both be at the same event, and they'll either work their way over to me, or I'll work my way over to them, and we kind of trade what we got and what we brought.
Yeah.
And that's when I get to connect with other breweries. Is when we go to fundraiser events and when we go and do things like that, because that forces me to get out of the tap room and out of the brewery and actually go out and talk to people. So
yeah, his cream ale was the first time I'd had a cream ale. Was with that Leap and Lemur they have, and I dig the hell out of that. I'll drink that all day long, till the snooze alarm goes off.
Yeah, right. There's a brewery up in Brainerd, that Jack Pine, that does a jalapeno cream ale.
Really?
And I mean, they no bones about it. It's like, it's jalapeno.
No kidding.
It's almost too spicy to drink an entire can. It's great as a little sidecar with a Bloody Mary. But yeah, more than that, you can't really sit down. It's good in chili. If you use it as like a chili base something like that. But I was interested that they went with the jalapeno cream ale first of all, but the flavor was really good. It's just, you gotta like spice to drink.
Yeah, some mad scientist back there thinking up some crazy beers.
Yeah, somebody dropped a jalapeno and said, "Oh, let's see what happens."
You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Exactly. No such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents, right?
So you mentioned Colorado earlier. Where did you live in Colorado? I think you probably told me this at one point.
Yeah, so I spent 6 or 7 years in Telluride.
Oh, okay.
Which is way in the southwest corner in the San Juan Mountains, and then moved from Telluride to Crested Butte.
Okay.
Which is more central state, but still considered a destination resort, and that's in the Elk Mountains out there in Colorado. So,
my brother-in-law was a chef at one of those resorts. They're called Little Nell. You ever heard of them?
I have not heard of Little Nell.
Apparently, and I could be wrong here, but I think there was one of those where you had to. It was only accessible by gondola.
Okay.
Or ultra rich helicopter type thing, and a buddy of mine who is in PR out in DC, he just went to a conference there, and he said it was like you died and gone to heaven. It was one of those types of the views and the
I wonder
the legal marijuana.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple private ski resorts in Colorado that still don't allow snowboarding.
Oh,
because that was when I moved to Colorado. That was a big thing. Was the integration of snowboarders, or as the skiers call them, knuckle draggers. On the mountains and how it changes the snow and the snow conditions, and everybody's fighting for the same terrain. So there were definitely a few private ski resorts that they had like the heated chairlifts, and you paid a pretty penny to go out there and do it. But I wonder if that wasn't one of those. Cause
it could be, because he's a big deal in the chefing community. He's in San Antonio right now. Okay. But that's what he's one of these guys he's got the story where he started washing dishes at a hotel, and now he's a executive chef of a 5-diamond property, and it's just crazy how.
Well, that's a common story for out there, because one of the things when you move out to Colorado, you roll into these little towns, and they're very tight-knit communities, and you don't know anyone, and more importantly, they don't know you. And they're all very kind of nomadic, transient communities. People stop for a season, then they go on to the next thing, or they just graduated college and they're going to be a ski bum for a year, and then they're going to move on to the next thing. So you kind of get in and you just have to take an entry-level position.
Yeah.
And then the longer you're there and the more rapport you build, I will say it was a leg up coming from Wisconsin. Something in the Midwest just is synonymous with work ethic. And so, when somebody grabs your application for the first time and says, "Oh, you're from Wisconsin, you're hired." You feel pretty good about that out of the gate. But you start here, and the longer you stay, the more you kind of bump up. And if you're if you're kind of person that's willing to learn and improve and kind of pick things up as you go and become more integrated in the business and what they do, because I was same thing. I mean, I was working in rental shops and bartending, and then I was managing bars, and then I was managing restaurants, and then I was running culinary outlets and events and hosting hosting parties for, President Carter and President Bush, and doing stuff like that out there, where it's, which is great on your resume moving forward if and when you decide to leave. A lot of people don't ever get out. It's pretty good living.
Every time we go back to visit there, my other brother-in-law still lives in Denver with his family, and every time I go, it gets harder and harder not to just say to hell with it and find a little shop and do something, but just somehow plug into that lifestyle there, because they got it figured out somehow. some way
Yeah,
they got to
it's-
figure it out up there.
It's pretty good. I mean, you live up at elevation. It's 30% less oxygen.
Yeah.
Your body works 30% harder just to walk around. Everybody's in good shape.
Yeah.
I was just talking with Dave from Dave and Scrady.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Over lunch today about how, I'm like, it's weird in Wisconsin, winter hits and people stay inside.
Uh-huh.
They don't go outside. In Colorado, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Winter hits and people are out at 6 a.m. shoveling out their cars to get up to the mountain to go snowmobile or ski or snowboard or ice skate or cross-country ski or, there's just everything's outdoors and people are still out and active.
It's weird. There's something about it that makes you want to do that. Whereas here, it's
sun.
like there could be, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, and then them too. They don't get those 40 below zero days like we do.
We
Did
do.
they? Really?
But it's
Because I've never been there during it, so maybe
yeah.
that's why.
So Crested Buttes in the Gunnison Valley, and outside of I think it's called International Falls, Minnesota.
Yeah, way up. Yeah.
I think the Gunnison Valley is maybe the second coldest place in
No
the country.
kidding.
So, we saw some minus 50 days. But there's just something about the thinner atmosphere. That's the sun's out. Like it's tolerable.
Mm-hmm.
Where here, I don't know if it's the moisture in the air, the gray. Like it's just that to the bone cold.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get warm.
It could be the moisture probably has something to do with that.
But
I mean,
that
it
sun
just
helps a ton
yeah.
out there. In the same breath, though, in the summer when it's 80 degrees, it's too hot to do anything but sit by the pool and drink rum drinks in the summertime because
Yeah.
you can't. Look at that sun just beats on you so hard out there.
When we were there last Thanksgiving, and I always forget about the elevation on all levels. I mean, it's not so terribly high that it's like you're gasping for breath, but I felt it on my body. That I was just dragging all the time. And the first thing we did when we get there was my brother-in-law and I polished off a bottle of Tullamore Dew. So I had a horrible hangover the next day, and I just couldn't get my mind right. I couldn't make anything happen in my head. I was a zombie till drove down to the dispensary, the Green Zone.
Yep.
And I bought some gummies, and that just fixed me right. That was the cure for what ails you right there. Another thing they got figured out in Colorado that we need to get on board with here.
It's funny because that was another thing Dave and I were talking about.
No, not Dave.
Being in Wisconsin, when I thought Wisconsin would get around on that was seeing all the new cannabis stores and stuff popping up in La Crosse, and I think that's a great start.
Mm-hmm.
But it was different in Colorado. We went from training our employees in the mountains how to not be the cool bartender and the cool server when the tourist comes in and says, "Hey, can you help us find some weed?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Don't do it," because you never know when it's going to be a secret shopper, and
Sure.
that's a stupid way to lose your job.
Yeah.
To training them how to get tourists to the dispensaries and how to, to teach them, don't blow your wad and get an ounce of weed for a 3-day vacation because you're not going to be able to finish it and
Right.
you don't get to fly out with it.
Right.
So we lived in destination resorts where people weren't driving into these. Half the winter you can't get there anyway because the highways are all shut down. But it's having drop boxes and letting them know where they can go to drop the stuff off safely, so they're not just leaving it at a condo or setting it out somewhere for a child to
Sure.
find or whatnot. So it was a big switch, and I mean you saw the tourism right out of the gate.
Yeah.
We were the only state in the country that was doing recreational. People were traveling from all over the world to come to Colorado and check it out
Right.
and purchase it legally.
It's got to be just a matter of time. People are over the reefer madness. I think the only thing is just the people that are hanging on to that.
It took us 30 years
Somehow,
to get away from
right?
Nancy Reagan.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like it's it doesn't have the problems that people have predicted. I don't think I've never seen it.
No, and it's the hiccups they had early on in Colorado, and you were going to have hiccups. You were the first place to do it. It wasn't recognized federally yet, so you couldn't use banking.
Yeah.
For it. So these dispensaries had hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash in a safe in the basement, and some of the gangs and stuff in Denver started catching on to that. So they started knocking over dispensaries, which then the dispensaries were almost having to hire these elite teams for security,
Right.
to make sure that wasn't happening. but eventually everything caught up, and you could use your check card when you went in.
I love the fact that I just didn't have, because a lot of times if you're talking to a weed dealer, you get kind of sketchy. You don't know
All
who
the
this person.
time, right?
It's just like, but you could just walk in and the bud tender's there, and there's no looking over your shoulder. And I mean, I was probably the youngest person in there. It's all old folks, and their kids, I guess. Bringing mom and dad in to get their glaucoma or just to get whatever. And it was like a fun family environment. And then
you don't feel pressured to sit there and rip 3-foot bongs for like an hour.
You didn't smoke half your weed when you bought it.
Be like, no, thanks.
But the other thing is because I used to smoke cigarettes, and I don't anymore, and I can't. It hurts now to smoke anything, but you can buy them edibles.
Yep.
And even though it's well documented, it's a different kind of high. You got to kind of back up off a little bit.
You can't uneat it.
Exactly.
So, like, in a lot of stuff out there, you get these like little cheesecakes and these little, brownies and cookies and that kind of stuff. And it's like, eat a quarter of it and then stop.
Right.
And then let it sit in. And then if you think you need more, eat another quarter. Because nobody told me the first time that it's not just, you don't eat the whole cheesecake.
Yeah.
And I had literally hid in my bedroom for like 7 hours with the lights off and the TV on under my blanket. Like that was going to save me. And every little move I heard, I was like, what was that? What was that? It was like, it was an awful experience. So I think you have to do it wrong maybe once to kind of figure out, like, ease into it.
Well, I bought the, cause it was like a 2-for-1 deal, and or it was a special. I can't remember. Anyway, it was you buy these gummies, and everything was in 10 milligram doses as well, which was awesome.
Absolutely.
And so if you bought like 4 gummies, you got a free truffle. And so I was like, okay, give me the mint truffle, or whatever. And that's the one I ate first because I thought it was easier I just ate half of it. And that wasn't. I mean, I was stoned off of that the first time because, again, it had probably been before I joined the Navy. Since I had done any kind of weed,
right, and
then here I am with this nice, good, clean, high quality, and just sat there, look at the wall for a little while with the family at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But the next day, did the other half, and then the third day, I went for the full 10, and that was enough. 10 milligrams was plenty.
Yeah, I think they do. There was a product out there. They were called chill pills. So it was specifically designed to kind of bring you down, because there's the 2 types of marijuana. The one that
like the sativa
and the indicas. And I can't even remember which one's which. But this one was like the downer one. At the end of the day, it was called the chill pill, and they did it in 5 and 10 milligrams. And that was, out there 12 years ago for me. That was the perfect thing in the world. I could come home from work. I could have 1 10 milligram chill pill, have a whiskey or a beer, and just relax, and that was all I needed at the end of my day.
Yeah,
and it was perfect.
Well, my brother-in-law, he doesn't do any marijuana products, but he likes cigars.
Okay.
So that's what we did when on Thanksgiving Day. I had taken a gummy, and then we went out back and fired up these big old Churchills.
Oh yeah.
With a glass of whiskey, and it was Colorado in November, so. I think we were there just before this huge cold front came through. So it was chilly, but it wasn't awful. So we were able to sit out back and puff on the cigars and have our whiskey, and I was stoned, and it was great. It was I mean, to me that's living.
Sounds like Colorado to me.
Yeah.
Except normally you were sitting in a hot tub watching the snow come down.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Everybody had outdoor hot tubs, and the best nights were when it was just nuking snow.
Sure.
You go sit out there in the hot tub, and we had a heated pool right next to our hot tub, which was awesome. Because you could just kind of flip flop back and forth, and same thing. You grab a bottle of bourbon and a couple of cigars, and I was lucky enough to have a country club member from. I think he was from Dallas, Fort Worth, but he would bring in like Cubans and Cohiba number 2s. And he would bring in these really nice cigars, and he always gave me one. So I would be sitting over there puffing on a Cuban, and all my friends would have like Swisher Sweet tips.
You can tell the difference with those Cubans. When I was in Turkey, you could buy them.
Okay.
And actually anywhere other than U.S., when we travel, we'd always buy Cubans. But I remember the first Cuban cigar I had, and it was like, man, this is... okay,
they're quite good.
I'm sold.
Yeah, they're quite good.
We can get those Hondurans and stuff. Have you spent any time up here at Briar Patch?
I haven't. Alan owns that, right? Is it Alan?
I'm not sure his name.
I think his name's Alan. And he comes down by the brewery quite a bit. And I'm not a huge. I've never smoked cigarettes. I've never been a huge smoker. So I don't tend to go out and like seek out cigars. But if somebody gives me one, or there's a time and a place for a cigar, and it's usually around a campfire. With a whiskey or a scotch.
Well, they have a little lounge in there that you could smoke inside.
Oh, really?
And, leather chairs. It's kind of like an old timey, like a manly.
Going back in time.
Yeah, and they don't serve alcohol, but if you have a flask or whatever, I'm sure if they don't, they're
nobody
not
does
gonna
that.
No. But it's awesome because he'll tell you, he's like, there's only 2 rules: no religion, no politics. Just sit there and enjoy each other's company, smoke the cigars, and that's that. I think they got like an old timey little radio playing some old timey music in there and stuff.
It got the crackle.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's nice. I like it.
You'd be disappointed if it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. They it's fun. It's kind of nice when you run across a little thing like Briar Patches have been there forever.
Yep.
And when Dan and I started this business, we when we made our first sale. In fact, I think you came across us. We were smoking our cigars out back in the alley. Back that day.
You look like a couple of hooligans.
Yeah, we were sitting there waiting to knock someone over.
Yeah, where were your skateboarders?
But that's what we went in there, and I hadn't been in there since he did the renovation and added that little room back there. And I mean, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I think you pay, like $16 or something to sit back there. He's charging something to be in there, but it's nice. It's worth the money, I think.
Yeah, I love to get into little downtown businesses.
Yeah.
And go check stuff out. Just because there are so many unique little, if you walk down the street looking at your shoes, you're never going to see all these cool little businesses that pop up downtown, these storefronts. So, I'll have to add that to my list of places to stop in.
I was in some place in Kansas City, right outside of Kansas City, Overland Park. And it's like the big up and coming booming suburb of Kansas City.
Okay.
Some like Motorola or somebody just built a big factory there, and it's a big place. But anyway, I was doing some business with a power plant nearby, and I was just walking around my hotel, and I found a little cigar lounge.
Right.
And so it was like that, where you buy the cigar, and then you have to pay like a lounge fee or whatever to go sit and smoke it in the lounge. But they had, like for the regulars, they had lockers in there. And I think he's got lockers up here. So if you buy a box of cigars, you can rent a locker and keep it in there. It's like a nice humidor type.
Right.
But these guys, they could keep their cigars and then whatever liquor they liked. So they would have their decanted liquor or whatever in there as well. So you could come pour your brandy, smoke your cigar, and and they had all the board games, and you sit there play chess or backgammon or whatever. You felt like you were in like in Cuba,
right?
Like in Havana, like you should be sitting there playing dominoes and listening to some salsa. It was pretty awesome.
Those are my kind of places.
Yeah,
and that's we get hit up in the tap room in the brewery every once in a while because we don't have TVs. So right now on the weekends, people come in and they're like, "Oh, we wanted to watch the Badger game here," So we miss out on a little bit of that,
Sure.
But so many people that come in love the fact that we don't have TVs because you have a sporting event on and half to 3/4 of the people in the room are staring at the TV, yelling at it, and people come into a brewery to chat and to kind of catch up with each other.
Yeah.
And, they don't. You can go watch a TV anywhere these days.
literally anywhere.
Like we stopped just short of taking people's phones away when they come in because there's times it irritates me when you see a table of 4 people and they're all staring at their phones and they're like, "Why did you even come together?"
Right.
You could have gone home and done this if you're just going to stare at your phone.
Right.
So.
I'm the same way. That's what I kind of like about this is, like even before today, I mean, you and I are friendly and we see each other, but we've never really talked.
Right.
But this is a great conversation. We're just sitting here, chatting, bullshitting, whatever, and it's nice. When phone's over there.
Yeah, when you got beers on the table. I could do this forever as long as there's cold beer.
Yeah, man. Super cool. So, like the TV thing too kind of bothers me, especially when you're going out to dinner. Mm-hmm. That's one thing about the Midwest that does sort of bother me. It's almost everywhere you go, there's 15 TVs within eyesight, and you're sitting there trying to talk to somebody, and they're up looking past you, looking over here. Oh yeah.
Well, and I think we're kind of starting to go the other way with that again. Now, and it took a while, but forever it was, if we have 13 TVs. we should have 15 TVs. And if we have 15 TVs, we should have 20 TVs. And if we have 60 inches, they should be 70 inches and bigger and always bigger. You know, and I think it is coming back around full circle now to where people they don't want to sit in those rooms, and they want to sit and have a conversation and make eye contact. And, you know, it's really something that we're losing in this day and age with technology. And I've read studies on, they do these studies on kids now because everything kids do is on a screen.
Right.
And that, you know, we're raising a community of children that are going to lack the ability to do this and to sit across the table from somebody, make eye contact, have a conversation, read social cues and body language. You know, some of these kids are going to get to a job interview and they're going to not be able to do it because they just don't have this skill anymore.
Yeah.
Because everything they do is Twitter or text message or Instagram, or, you know, it's face to face, but it's through a device.
Well, and that's going to affect everything, business, everything. Because I mean, I even see it now where some people in our business prefer to just deal with either email or text.
Right.
And there's no interaction. There's no interaction. You know, like it's real easy to misread what's on a text message or, you know, an instant message or whatever, because you know, I don't get a voice inflection. I don't get a sly grin or sarcasm, whatever, you know. So to me, I prefer. And if Dan were here today, he would be rolling his eyes because Dan prefers just typing it out and everything. Me, it's like, okay, I want to tell you what I'm telling you. Yeah. But it's so much easier for me to just tell you instead of doing having to type it out and rethink. Oh, is he going to think this is weird or whatever? You know, whatever works, I guess. Yeah. But for me, and you know, I'm not that old. Right. Same age as you now.
Ask me tomorrow.
Yeah.
How that feel.
Yeah. Right. But it's just to me, it's so much easier just to get, you know, let's just talk about it.
Exactly. I'm the same way. We get around to, you know, I try to touch all of our accounts every week. Go in, talk to a manager, talk to an owner. Yeah. See how things are going. See how their week was, their weekend. You know, and it's something even in the beer world now. It's all text message and put in your order through email. Yeah. And I love going in and actually talking to the staff and the people on the floor. And, you know, I can tell them more about our beer and what we're selling. And then, you know, it's great when they turn around and use the same words I use to describe the beer to a customer when I'm sitting there, you know, because they're getting a good representation of what our intentions were when we made it. Yeah. And why we made it that way. And you can't really do that if I send an email to an owner, that email is not going to the 12 bartenders that are actually selling the beer. You know, it's just going to the owner's eyes. So
was it you that was telling me the other day about the you walked in and asked a bartender about your beer, and I think it might be dark.
Oh yeah, it was a golden ale. The word gold was in the name, which is a color. Yeah. If you were lucky enough to get the big box of crayons as a kid, I think gold was in there. I just got I had yellow and orange.
But if you get that big one with the sharpener built in,
I was so jealous on kids. Yeah. But no, that was never me. My parents got me exactly what was on that list. School used to send them with you. But it was a golden ale, and it wasn't me. It was one of our owners. They like to go in and you know, ask the bartender or the server if they could tell them a little bit about the Turtle Stack beer. Yeah. Which I think is awesome because it's letting us know who's training their staff on their tap lines, not just ours, but the entirety of their tap lines, and really investing in craft beer in general. And they said it's a smash golden ale. And he said, "Oh, can you tell me about it?" And they go, "Yeah, I think it's dark." And they said, "All right, could I try a little bit of it?" And they walked away, and they came back with a little taster and with that look of shame on their face. I guess it's not dark. And you know, it's easy for us to kind of, as a small brewery, to be very calculated about where we put our beer. Yeah. Into outside accounts, and we love to put our beer. We would love to have it everywhere. But right now, we really get to put it places where, you know, they really appreciate craft beer and local businesses and promoting local businesses, and they're spending time with their staff to actually teach them about the product. And some of that falls to us to go in there and to talk to them. And we do invite restaurants to have their staff come over on Sunday evenings, and we'll do a brewery tour, and we'll taste everything, and we'll kind of break down our philosophy with beer and why we do what we do for the community, things like that, you know, and just get them a little bit more comfortable with our business. But then they get to take that back. And, you know, if you're working at a downtown bar or restaurant, what's more local than the brewery that's 3 blocks away from you? So, you know, if their staff are selling our beer in their restaurant, that could intrigue that guest to then walk the 3 blocks to come into the tap room to kind of taste what else we have available, you know. And so cross-promotion wise, you know, working with our accounts, we don't sell food. So it's really easy for us to suggest places to go eat that carry our beer downtown, and vice versa. You know, we hope we get them back from those outlets to taste some of the other beers.
Well, you're pretty conveniently located. Like if you're going to something at the lacrosse center, or I know that's where we stopped. My son graduated last year. We stopped in and had a beer there before I officially became old and I had a high school graduate.
Yeah, right. It's with the lacrosse center there, we're in the nexus of like 8 wedding venues. So on Saturdays there's always that like 2-hour window of time where the wedding party goes off to take pictures after the ceremony, and the wedding guests are like, what do we do?
Beer.
Yeah, there's times 3:00 in the afternoon that door swings open and won't close for a half an hour because like 2 Saturdays ago, I think we got 65 people from a wedding at the Grand Ballroom.
Holy cow.
That the wedding was there. They had to kick everybody out to flip the floor for dinner service. And so they kicked everybody out, and they all just came down to the brewery for 2 hours, which is fantastic for us. And then we send them back up to go eat dinner and dance the night away.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll come back next weekend.
So yeah, some things are better than others. You know, you get a pop country concert at the lacrosse center. That's not necessarily your craft beer crowd. Where the Trampled by Turtles night, I think that was one of the crazier nights we've had since we opened. But that being said, whatever that last pop country concert was at the lacrosse center,
Luke Bryan?
Luke Combs?
Luke Combs, that was it. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really listen to any of that music either, but like great representation that night.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those prepare to be busy, and then if all the guys in bedazzled jeans don't come in to drink your beer, sorry, I'm probably not making any friends with that one. But, if they don't come in to drink the beer, you know, so be it.
Yeah. Again, if Dan were here, he's a spangled jean.
Yeah, he's got some gemstones on his jeans.
I can definitely see the Trampled by Turtles crowd being, one, you got turtle in the name, but two, that's kind of their gig is
jam bandy, folksy kind of. And I think the whole turtle thing was just the kicker. I mean, we had beer over there at the lacrosse center for the concert.
I drank a few of them at that show.
I don't know if you remember, but the following day was the Chili Slam.
Oh, yeah.
So we had 4 kegs over there tucked away in a cooler for the Chili Slam for the next day. So we had 8 kegs of beer over there total. For us, that's a lot of beer.
Yeah.
And the show hadn't even started yet, and somebody from the lacrosse center called over and said, we need more beer. I said, well, just take out of the Chili Slam beer for the next day. He goes, no, we've done that. He's like, we need more beer. So I was able to take him over 4 more kegs, and I was like, 2 of these are for tonight, 2 of these are for tomorrow. I don't have any more. Like, it's 12 kegs of beer. That's a double batch. That's a full double batch run for us. We brew on a 3-barrel system. We double batch to fill a 6-barrel fermenter. In a perfect world, we get 12 half barrels of beer off of that 6-barrel fill.
Yeah.
So like that's 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks worth of work. One night gone out the window. So yeah, that was crazy. But man, we were busy. They were busy. You know, according to Dave over there at the lacrosse center, he said we could have had 20 kegs of that. We would have sold them that night, no problem.
That's my wife's favorite band is Trampled by Turtles. Yeah, and I actually got free tickets. That was one of the last things I did when I was working at the radio station. Was I got free tickets to that.
Nice.
I was able to score some, and so we've seen them twice now.
Okay.
They've been both the last 2 times they were here, and I dig them too. I think it's the kind of Americana.
Right. It's one of those weird stories for me because I've never seen them live. But one of the last years I was in, I can't remember if I was in Telluride or Crested Butte. Both of these little mountain towns, they have big summer music festivals. And I want to say it was maybe Telluride is Trampled by Turtles like first year out there for Blues and Brews or Bluegrass Festival or whatever it was. And I was sitting at a bar working, and I had all the parents from all the band members. So how I got introduced to Trampled by Turtles was I met all their moms, essentially. Nice. And who's gonna say nicer stuff about you than your mom? So that right away they're like, oh, you got to check them out. They're amazing. They're great.
And they're all from Minnesota too. Yep. So they're,
Yeah. Oh, and then, they found out I was from Wisconsin. And it felt very at home with the Uper accents. And, but it was, as far as they go, I mean, when they come back to La Crosse, we need like a 3-month warning to make sure we get beer in tank. And
need to get some kind of like a Trampled by Turtles, signature ale or something, signature double bock, or
if we know far enough in advance, and that's something down the line with volume. As we continue to grow and get into retail sales and get into some of that stuff with some of the other long-standing restaurant accounts around La Crosse, is to make something special for those guys too.
So like my recording thing froze for a second, so we might have lost just a little bit of what. So, I mean, that was really cool, the secret of life you just gave us, and I'm sorry we missed that.
If you can't get on board with it at this point, I mean,
and that secret word for the free beer for life, that's good
forever.
Forever. Yep. Okay. Yep. Cool. Awesome.
Yep. As long as you remember it.
Excellent.
I'd
Perfect.
write it down, save it in your notes.
Yeah, we face technical difficulties from time to time on.
Hey, when you run a small business in La Crosse, your life has technical difficulties. If you're the kind of person that freaks out whenever anything ever goes just a little bit wrong, I would say never get into business. For
exactly, you just gotta know how to roll with it and figure out different
no mistakes.
ways. Yeah,
just happy accidents.
Exactly,
turn it into something positive.
Yeah. So what do you usually listen to? Do you listen to that type of like Trampled by Turtles type music, or?
I'm all over the board. I'm a mutt of a dad who one of my earliest music memories was when Grateful Dead Touch of Grey was on MTV back when they used to play music videos.
That video.
and yeah, right. And my dad was telling me how that was like one of the greatest rock bands, like one of the greatest bands of all time. And so I grew up with a dad whose influence was classic rock, The Who, The Dead, Zeppelin, stuff like that. I grew up with, my mom was way more into James Taylor, Jim Croce, Stevie Wonder, singer-songwriter, R&B stuff. And then I somehow got into hip-hop on my own, oddly enough. Funny story. Remember Columbia House?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you get those tapes for $1.
I know I'm talking to somebody my age. When you get 10 CDs for $1, and then you have to buy 3 CDs over the next 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And they send you that sheet every week or every month.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't send the thing back saying you don't want it, you get whatever that featured CD was.
And then you got to remember to cancel it.
Yep. Mine was Enter the 36 Chambers by the Wu-Tang Clan. And I'd never really listened to a lot of hip-hop. The other not free CD, but the other CD I had to buy was Neil Young's Decade.
Oh, sure.
So I got lucky on both of them.
Hell yeah.
Because that first Wu-Tang CD is arguably my favorite hip-hop CD that I owned. There were a handful of others. I loved Southern Playalistic by Outkast back in the day.
That's what I was playing when you walked in the door here. That's what I had on, yeah.
My best friend and I would drive home from basketball games in high school when we were 16, because I had my license and he didn't. And I had that Southern Playalistic CD in my car. And this is like, think of an old crappy high school car and, 2 16-year-old kids. But yeah, we memorized every word, every song on that whole album. So yeah, I got into that. And then, I mean, the Grateful Dead and Fish and some of that stuff, I went through that phase. And the last 16 concerts I went to were Ween.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with Ween.
A little. I'm not I wouldn't call myself a fan, but
it was going. I had a friend who's like a super fan.
Sure.
And when you know somebody like that that's so passionate about something, it's hard not to kind of get into it as well. And yeah, I mean, talk about a 3-hour concert experience. They don't take a set break.
Jesus.
And it's like 4 or 5 different concerts, because they'll go. We saw them in Nashville, Tennessee, at the War Memorial Auditorium, and they did a country album called 12 Golden Country Oldies, but it's only 10 songs, which is clever. But they used a country band. Can I curse on
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
So the country band, they're whatever was called the Shit Creek Boys.
Okay.
And in Nashville, they actually brought the Shit Creek Boys onto stage, and they played that whole album.
Huh.
So you get like a country music experience. They got some like in-your-face rock and roll, like heavy metal stuff. Some more like Talking Heads, Bowie, like bizarre kind of stuff. Some very traditional rock, some ballady stuff. Like they're all over the board, and you get a touch of that at a show. And for 3 straight hours, it's just like going bonkers. And you know, they play mid-level auditorium, so something like the Lacrosse Center is a fit for them. But yeah, I'm kind of like beer. I drink to suit my mood. I listen to music to suit my mood.
I'm the same way. Generally, if I'm going to go to a default position, it's going to be hip-hop of some kind. I love Wu-Tang Clan. When I've heard the first 36 Chambers, it was like the top of my head blew off. Like, are you kidding me? This is what? And I grew up, you know, I just grew up, but you know, earlier on I did with Dre and Snoop and all that West Coast stuff, but I never heard anything like Wu-Tang Clan.
It was way more cerebral than,
and then,
you know, and I grew up with NWA too.
Yeah.
Like that was, you know, I think most kids probably from our generation, you know, your experience was when that NWA album came out. Probably that or 2 Live Crew at the time.
Yep.
Out of Miami. But, you know, that was kind of your introduction to hip hop, and it was gangster rap back in the day. And that was before you went back in time even further and found like
Grandmaster Flash
and Schooly D and you know the hip hop.
Oh yeah, Sugar Hill.
You know, and how basic and everything was, like 8 bars, and it was, you know, and it was just kind of telling the story. And I like that Wu-Tang was kind of like that, but it was more cerebral, and it wasn't the gangster rap approach to things. It was, you know, he's telling a story. Well, he's doing it in a super.
And the metaphors. I mean, there's several examples I could probably point to, and it wasn't on 36 Chambers, but it was on when GZA released Liquid Swords.
Yep.
When he uses terms like, you know, how they peep my convo, and how I changed a brother's name to John Doe.
Yep.
You know, that's a real clever way of saying I just murdered somebody.
Yep.
And I remember having this conversation with somebody else, like, why do you like to listen to such violent music? And I'm like, well, for one, I think it's just clever, and it's amazing to see someone go from point A to point B and take this whole weird track to get there lyrically and using just words.
Yep.
You know, the same number of letters you and I know, but they made them all like this. And but 2, I like it for the same reason I like watching like, you know, gangster movies, like The Godfather, Goodfellas, that type of thing. You know, it's a world I'll never be involved in, but I somehow feel like akin to, just because.
Well, it takes you there. For that song, that 4-minute track, it takes you there. You know, and it's poetry, which I think is really cool. And it's some of my other favorite MCs. If you get a chance, if you haven't heard him, MF Doom.
Oh, he's one of my favorites.
You want to talk about a guy that doesn't do anything cookie cutter?
Right.
It's like he'll rhyme whole paragraphs in the weirdest ways, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you actually listen to what he's saying, it's a next level with the metaphors. And, you know, and I think that was because of, you know, a lot of that stuff was because of like Wu-Tang Clan and what those guys did, and they inspired that group of younger hip hop artists at the time, which.
Yeah, I find myself listening to MF Doom, and like he'll just throw out some shit like, you know, blew his whole shit up on his what this button do, and it's like, oh god, what, you know, oh my god, I can't believe he said that, you know, stuff like that. And it's I mean, man, he's and you never hear, like, he's one of those guys that does his own thing too. It's like you're not gonna see him on the, you know, the Grammys.
No, he's not playing Kimmel.
No, definitely not.
You know, but there's a lot of guys like
Cool
that.
Keith is another good one.
Yep.
And he's got all his different, like the Black Elvis and what is his other? He's got another alter ego too. It's Cool Keith, Black Elvis, and I don't know, it's the one where he's a half alligator, half shark, alligator, half man.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that one is.
Anyway, this guy, he's got you know, lyrics for days, and he's one of those MCs that'll I've seen him interviewed, and he's like, I've got rhymes stockpiled in case anyone comes at me.
Well, I'm sure.
Like he's like, it's mutually assured destruction. If somebody talks smack, I've got him. I'm ready for him. Anybody, I'm ready.
Well, and that's just honing your craft, and that's years and years and years of sitting down with spiral notebooks and just jotting stuff down and just writing, constantly writing. and like those guys are passionate about that. That's what they do. That's like why they're put on this earth, to do that.
And it's art in any form. You know, I mean, I'll go to my grave saying that's it's art from a whole nother level. And like this whole thing about like now we're seeing rappers getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think that's totally appropriate, because I would argue that the rap and gangster rap particularly is the punk rock of our era.
Right.
You know, it's music made to make people scared, to make people uncomfortable.
Well, and make you think. And,
exactly.
And I mean, if you trace rock and roll back to its roots, and it was Delta blues and stuff from down south, and like, you know, a lot of those kind of things. So every musical genre kind of begets the next one, or sidesteps and evolves into this or that. Or I've tried listening to some more current hip hop, but I'm struggling with it right now. I'm not big into the mumble, Post Maloney kind of stuff. Like
I can see the appeal, particularly as I have young kids or younger kids.
I'm
now.
wondering if it's not me being my dad.
I think that's, and I'm trying to not do that. It's like, you guys don't know what real rap is, because, you know, maybe not, but there's some gems out there, and I don't know if it's not the exact same thing, but like Kendrick Lamar. Get into some Kendrick. I mean, fuck with that. His album, Good Kid, Mad City. Yeah, I'll put up against any classic rap album ever. It's that good. Same with the very next one, which was To Pimp a Butterfly.
So he put out 2 winners
in a row. And his third one, Damn. It's just Damn. Period.
Right.
That one ain't no joke either. I mean, it's Kendrick is lyrically, he's probably one like top 5 currently, I would say. Really good stuff.
I might have to check him out, because I kept running into so Big Boy put out that track that it was like hooked to an advertisement through the Olympics. I kept hearing it. And I can't remember the name of it. I think it's all right, something like that. It's got like a piano riff in it, and I actually got like, I was like, maybe there's some of these guys that were putting out amazing hip hop music 20 years ago that are coming back around, and now, you know, coming back against the mumble rap thing. And I'm sure it was the same thing like in our era when, you know, when it was the Wu-Tang Clans and the Public Enemies and that kind of stuff. You go back to like the Slick Ricks and the Dougie Freshes that had those like 8 Bars and Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure the old heads back then thought our music was garbage. At that point, you know, I think this is just now the next evolution of that, where I'm not used to hearing it, but the kids now are coming up with these mumble rappers. You know, and I'm kind of the same way. Like, I don't want to be too harsh on it, but I can't understand a lot.
This guy Travis Scott, have you heard of him?
I've heard the name.
Like, apparently he's involved somehow with one of the Kardashian girls.
I was gonna say
Jenner. Kylie. Is it Kylie? It might be Kylie. But his music, I could really do without. I'll be honest with you. But I watched a documentary about him on Netflix with my daughter, and the guy he is a showman, a performer. I mean, we're talking like the craziest crowds, and these people are going apeshit for this guy.
Really?
I mean, and he's up there like a rock star. He's stage diving, and
just one guy and a microphone.
Yeah, basically. I mean, more or less.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but the way he commands thousands. I mean, it's like watching, like in the 70s, watching like Rod Stewart, you know, chicks throwing panties and shit. It's like, it's that nuts, but people are like connecting with this guy on some weird emotional level that I just don't see, but it's definitely there. So it's got to be something. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know?
And it's coming full circle to the beer thing, because just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not okay for you to like it.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, with music especially. I mean, I don't listen to heavy metal music, and I don't listen to pop country music, but millions and millions and millions of people do, and they see something in that, and I don't expect everybody to like everything I like. But
well, I mean, if it connects with you, and if you can connect with it, that's all that really matters. You know,
that's what music's about in general, like connecting to a song, or whether it's a sappy love ballad at that time, or a party anthem, or, you know, whatever you got, whatever you connect to that song at that time in your life, that makes that song special.
There was a time for about 6 months when I was in the Navy that all I would listen to was Slipknot. And it was just one album too, the first one. Like, it was just over and over and
Those
over
guys
again.
that wear those like
The weird masks and
like,
everything, and I was like obsessed. It was like this weird obsession. I don't know why. I mean, and I'll still listen to it, but it's like I'll listen to it now. I'm like, man, what was that touching off in me? You know, I was maybe 24, 23, 24. Maybe there's some weird angry white man thing happening there, or whatever.
Sure.
Post 9/11, like just post 9/11, and
Who knows?
There was a lot of stuff happening. You know, going overseas, and maybe that was it. But like you said, that moment in time. Maybe you guys should have a hip hop night down at the.
We've talked about it. We're such a small little tap room. It's really hard for us to have music.
Sure.
Because it's hard to control the volume levels. It's a small room. It's a lot of hard spaces.
Yeah.
We tend to cater to a little bit of more of a kind of young professional, the older crowd demographic. And maybe I'd surprise myself with the hip hop thing. Because you never know until you ask somebody, you know, what they're into or this or that. And, you know, so maybe I'd surprise myself. But that's another thing we talk about with growing bigger and expansion is, you know, like we want to get more into supporting live local music and some of the different stuff people do in this area. Because I think we're blessed with a number of amazing musicians in La Crosse.
For real.
And I know they're some of the hardest working people in the area as far as how many shows they play. And you meet somebody who's in a band, and I've learned in La Crosse to be like, well, what other bands are you also in? Because nobody just plays.
Are you in a
one
band? Yeah, which one?
Yeah, and then how many other ones?
Yeah.
Well, I play this and this band. So we have some amazing musicians here, and we would love to support more live local music. It's just hard as a small business to pay those bands to come in, and you know, you kind of figure out, well, we need this many people to come in for the band above and beyond what we would normally do in business.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a hard market. There's a lot of live music venues, and a lot of them right downtown, and we kind of had to back off the live music thing for a little bit now, while we kind of reconceptualize how to go at that again and try to figure out how to make it work. And
one thing I'd like to do in here, just in this little room, is get a DJ sometime and get some like old school hip hop mixes going on,
right?
And invite, like, make it like an ultra lounge kind of thing where you invite like 10 people. And have some cocktails, or maybe if we had to, maybe we could bust out into this back room here, or whatever.
I feel like you might have to.
But I mean, just to have a tiny little intimate, like hip hop groove type thing, and then videotape it, and do like a YouTube channel type thing where we have just people sitting here vibing on some, you know, just have like a really good DJ that could get that real, you know. I don't know. It's
spin
like
records.
Yeah.
My roommates in college did that, and one of them was more of like a house jungle DJ, but my other roommate spun exclusively hip hop.
Yeah.
And I was so amazed watching him, because we had the turntable set up in our living room at home, and all the records and stuff there, and like I was always intimidated to touch it because I didn't know how anything worked.
Yeah.
But to see him like grab 2 albums, 2 records, and put one on and get it going, and then he'd have his ear over here, you know, and he's like tracking this record because he's got it right where he wants it, and then to be able to like flip them and fade them and then switch out, know right where to come in, you know, to make the little marks they make.
Yeah.
It always amazed me and how good it was.
I love that stuff, man. Like old school house music, I dig that. There's a DJ I want, like when I'm working up here, I'll just, for background music, is Johnny Negro.
Okay.
It looks like Johnny Negro when you write, but it's, you'll pronounce that way. He's a British DJ.
Okay.
And this guy, he spins like old 70s funk with a like an up tempo beat behind it, and like Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind, with it's fucking dope, man. And then the other one that I've gotten into is, and I don't know how I didn't know about these guys, but they've been around forever, is a like a house techno band called Faithless.
Oh.
They're from England. And they have one of the best live videos I've seen on YouTube is this song called "God Is a DJ," and what I'll do is I'll link it on my when I publish this, I'll link it in there. But man, it's live. They perform it live.
Right.
Drum set, percussion set, keyboards. This guy on this bass just slapping this bass like it's great. I mean, it's fucking fat, crazy. And it's awesome. So. Faithless, God Is a DJ live. It's badass.
Nice. Yeah, I know a lot of that kind of, what do they call it, EDM, electric dance music. Yeah, that kind of came out, and then you had like the girl talk God, who it's like Girl Talk. And I'm trying to think of some of the other. They do like the mashups. Those albums were like hot for a while, and you kind of saw that you can take these new, like you said, these like kind of jazzy beats or funk beats from like the 70s.
Yeah.
And you can take current music and switch a few things and kind of put it in and play around with it. And like those were a ton of fun for a while when you're going around, traveling around, partying and this and that, and you hear some of these mashups come on. Like those are always good party songs back in the day.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't get around here a whole lot, was the those party, like going to a party. It was always just some of the guy with a tape deck, and they would play, whatever was on Z93 at the time. But when I moved to Seattle, going to those parties, and this was 95, 96, so the parties there was either went between like the deepest, weirdest cuts from Sub Pop, like if you listen to Nirvana, you were too cutting edge for this party. You needed like old timey, the Mudhoney and stuff like that, or like house music. Like you go up to the University District and find like this like weird trance thing happen in a basement somewhere.
Right.
And that was super cool.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to live in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the time, when I had those roommates, and we would go up to Green Bay. I actually bought a minivan at the time, not because it was super cool, which it turned out to be, but it was so we could load all my buddies' gear in it.
Oh,
and
sure.
Go to Milwaukee and go to Green Bay and go to Appleton, and he'd play shows at bowling alleys and bars and houses and clubs and all this different stuff. And at the time, I think Atmosphere was releasing their Headshot LP. God, maybe right before. I can't even remember if Lucy Ford was their first album or if they did one prior to that. But this was back in like the Headshot like mixtape.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
And I think Slug at the time was dating somebody from Oshkosh, because I actually met him at a party in Oshkosh where it would be like one of these hip hop parties, and we were 21, 22. We didn't know better. We had jobs, and we worked in bars, and our life was partying on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and going ugly early on Sunday.
Yeah.
We did an underground hip hop radio show on Sunday night on the UW Oshkosh campus, which was funny because it was one of us was a student at the time, and then the rest of us would all just go in with him and do this like underground hip hop radio show.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't know any better, and we were out meeting people, and we'd get tickets to go see Jurassic 5 was just coming up. So we'd get tickets through the university to go see Jurassic 5 at the rave in Milwaukee and get like sound bites for the radio show and like meet the guys. And it was a cool time to kind of be in hip hop, because I think that was when underground hip hop was really starting to be a force in the hip hop world, where you didn't need a big record exec, you didn't need a label. I think Slug at the time decided to just do the Rhymesayers label with, I don't even remember if it was Mr. Dibbs or who it was back then. But just to go on their own and say, hey, we're going to run this little label out of Minneapolis, and we got these Merce and a couple of these guys that we're going to sign on the label, and Pelican John and guys like that. And you would actually be able to go and see these guys in like house parties and bowling alleys. And like I saw Atmosphere when it was Slug and Idea in on the terrace in Madison, which just so happened to be, God, who the heck. That night, then it was Afu Ra. I don't know. This might be going real deep. God, who the hell is the other guy? He was a big classic hip hop guy. But we went and saw those guys, and then met them in the breakfast restaurant area at the concourse in Madison, like the next morning, and we're able to like hang out and talk to those guys.
That's super cool.
You could actually sit at a table and have a conversation with them, and that probably isn't the case anymore for a lot of them. But it was just kind of a cool time to be in that genre of music and being able to meet these guys as they're coming up and humble and appreciative of every opportunity they get to play.
Have you seen that show on Netflix, The Evolution of Hip Hop?
Probably. I'm in the middle of watching the Wu-Tang Clan on Hulu. Okay. I watched The Get Up. Back. That might have been a Hulu show too.
The Evolution of Hip Hop is just this guy. I can't remember his name now, but he starts literally at the beginning.
Okay.
Guys doing the dozens out in the park,
right?
And then it goes into, how they formed off of gangs, and then they formed into just doing like the rap battles and stuff, and turned into when they started being able to monetize it, and then it gets so deep. But into like the New York and LA scenes, and then how it's splintered and how all the beefs happen, and then it goes to Atlanta and talks about like Outkast.
I did watch that.
Oh man, it was so good.
Because that Outkast one got me. With
they're that basement,
that dirty basement, and how he came in from like Savannah to like be in Atlanta with his aunt or something like that,
and then when they went to the Source Awards and was just like, and they won the best new album,
and that was right in the middle of the East Coast.
Yeah.
So they're like, how about Atlanta down south? And everybody's like, get up.
I ain't trying to get shot.
Yeah, that was good. And you know, to see weird things on that, like Hootie Hoo, I think it's Hootie Hoo off the Southern Playalistic album, like CeeLo Green's on that.
Yeah.
CeeLo Green used to hang out with those guys back in the day, and like I never would have thought that.
Right.
Because they signed with Babyface, didn't they? Like back when it was like TLC and they were more pop groups.
What group? It wasn't. It was it Goody Mob?
Goody Mob?
That was CeeLo was a Goody Mob.
Okay.
But it was that same crew.
Yep.
I mean, he was in that basement.
It was all together.
Yeah.
It was, you know, and just the luck of finding those two guys to put together.
Right.
You know, Andre and Big Boy, and put them together and, you know, have them work off each other, and each was so different.
Oh yeah.
But just when they combined and came together, it was just amazing.
Outkast is a shit, man. I love that.
It's still to this day, I can throw in just about any Outkast album and listen to the whole thing almost all the way through.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, we've been doing this about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
What do you think?
Oh, the time flies. Yeah, I should probably
go get your birthday.
Open the brewery.
Yeah.
I still got a business to run.
Oh, man. I'm going to go home, I think, and
get some rest.
Yeah.
Work on that cold.
Oh, my God. It just won't go away.
That's the winter like weekender, man. It just starts getting cold and everybody starts going down with it. I had a guy just the other week like, hey, I'm not feeling so well, and I'm like, stay home. You come in with a small crew like that, you come in and get one other person sick, and we just trade it back and forth. Next thing you know, it's March.
Well, and I got kids too, and they go to school and they bring back whatever plague they have over there. Yeah. So, and my wife works at a hospital. Oh. So, we got it all. We get it all.
I'm gonna say either that or you should be immune to everything.
Right? I would think so.
Maybe some more whiskey.
Yeah, maybe I'll stop on the way home. Yeah, that's what we'll do next time. If you want to do this again, I'll get a good bourbon or a good Irish or something.
Yeah, I can remember to bring beer too.
There you go.
We kind of make it. I didn't want to. I saw your 6-pack, and I'm like, I didn't bring any beer.
I didn't want to assume you were going to bring any. That's why
you should have, though. You should have. Like, I have a standing rule: if we ever meet in the brewery, we have to drink beer while we meet. Because why else would you do a meeting in a brewery?
Well, maybe we could do the podcast from the brewery sometime.
Yeah, we could just bring down and set up.
I mean, it's a pretty simple setup.
Yeah, I'm guessing Brent would love to get in on it. So
yeah, that'd be super awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, happy birthday! Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Make it.
I know I missed Veterans Day, but thanks for your service.
I appreciate that. It's always awkward when someone says that, especially knowing some of the dumb shit we did while we were on tour. But I do appreciate it when people say that. But
I appreciate anybody who, I mean, in our lifetime, it was you. That was a choice you made. You volunteered.
Yeah.
To go into the military and the armed services, and back in the day, if your number got picked, you were going.
Oh yeah.
Unless you were like one of the many politicians and presidential people that got to not go. But it was, for people that choose that life and put their life out there to go over and to do that job, like I got nothing but love for that.
Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming by. Yeah, man. It's been fun. It's a good conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Don't forget that secret word for free beer for life.
Oh, right. Yeah. Everybody, all you got to do is walk in and say it for life.
And then you're good to go.
All right. Well, cool. This is Cultured Swine, and thanks so much. Peace.
Later.